Committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have approval of the majority and minority leaders.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I am pleased that the Senate has taken up the National Defense Authorization Act. There is a 60-year tradition in this body of getting this bill done because the importance of this bill transcends partisanship. In fact, 81 senators of both parties joined forces earlier this year to override a senseless veto of this important bill by the former president. Now, while both sides of the aisle can work cooperatively to get this defense policy bill done, we are now seeing unprecedented obstruction by the minority party to passing a budget that will fund the programs that our military and our veterans need. Now, look, if Republicans succeed in this obstruction, I'm going to tell you the government will be forced to go to a full-year continuing resolution. That's not workable. The result will be frozen spending levels for the Department of Defense, for the Department of Veterans Affairs, which amounts to a $70 billion cut in spending for those two agencies alone compared to the appropriation bills prepared in the Senate. I serve as chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, and let me tell you what's at stake for America's veterans and their families. Funding will be blocked for priorities like expanding veterans' access to life-saving mental health care services, enhancing women veterans' health care, providing housing assistance, and expediting the delivery of benefits and care for those suffering from toxic exposure. Let me say this again. If we go to a one-year continuing resolution, that means we go off of last year's budget, last year's spending bill. We will block priorities like expanding access to mental health services for our veterans. We will block services for expanding women's veterans' health care. We will block services for housing assistance and for expediting what is one of the most serious issues coming out of the conflict of 20 years in the Middle East, and that's care for those that are suffering from toxic exposure. The bottom line is this would keep the VA from properly addressing a whole host of issues on behalf of those who have put their lives on the line for this country. And they're going to continue to pay the price for us not doing our job. As chairman of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, I was able to draft a bill that provided a $31 billion increase for defense compared to last year. This military bill is consistent with the spending levels approved by the bill we're working on today. In fact, in an amendment offered by Senator Inhofe, that amendment passed 25-1, which will plus up this bill. So why isn't the Defense Appropriations Bill flying through this Senate just like the NDAA? Well, I'll tell you, in September, Republicans on the Appropriations Committee announced that they would vote against all appropriations bill, in part because Senator Inhofe's bill doesn't increase defense with enough spending. So the idea here is just take money, throw it at the wall, and hope that it's spent right. The bottom line is there needs to be plans, there needs to be planning, and I'm going to tell you, last time I checked, a $31 billion increase is a pretty good chunk of dough. So, Mr. President, it's simple. Do we want to fund the VA? Do we want to fund the military? Do we want to fund this country's government? Or do we want to go back to last year's funding, which, by the way, would be totally inadequate, but yet it is what some on the other side of the aisle are advocating right now. Look, guys, we're in a continuing resolution right now. It expires on December 3rd. If, in fact, we had a budget deal today, we couldn't get an omnibus out for nearly 5 weeks. So what I am saying is this: no more finger pointing, no more changing the rules of the game, no more foot dragging. Do what the Gang of 10 did on the bipartisan infrastructure package. Let's go into negotiations to get to yes. Let's all work together. Let's not play irresponsible political games with our military and with our veterans and with everybody else that lives in this country. What are we here for? Are we here to advocate for this country, or are we here to advocate for a political party? I'm telling you, the appropriation bills that should have been done last September, we should be sitting at the table today. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and help in any way that I possibly can to make sure these bills get through this body and to the President's desk so we can fund our veterans and fund the needs that they have, so we can fund our military and deal with the threats that are facing us around the world. It's time, folks. It's time to quit talking, and it's time to start doing. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Senator from